Today's 52-47 vote follows last weekend's U.S. raid in Venezuela, which captured leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife and brought them to the U.S. to face drug and weapons charges. Here's what Democrat Virginia Senator Tim Kaine said moments after that measure passed.
And I think there's a question under the War Powers Resolution whether an arrest operation, even if it had a military escort, was hostilities that would allow this kind of a privileged vote to get a guaranteed vote on the floor. That's not what this is. Started in September, strikes against Venezuelan boats in open waters, and then the amassing of the Armada, and then the seizure of ships, and then the coordinated attack on 150 aircraft, and not just to extract the president, also to bomb military sites around Venezuela, the deposing of the government, the seizing of oil, the setting of conditions for future elections, and the promise that we're going to be there for years with the U.S. military enforcing a blockade in and out of Venezuela.
On NewsNation's Joe Khalil is live on Capitol Hill. So, Joe, this resolution faces another vote in the Senate before it even reaches the House.
Yeah, and let's be very clear up front, Nicole, this bill is never going to become law. This resolution just will not. If it does somehow pass the House, if it even gets to the House, President Trump would never sign it. But it is still important. And the reason it is because this is the biggest rebuke that we've seen thus far from Congress, from a Republican majority Congress toward President Trump and the White House and this administration's policy on Venezuela. It's a big deal. Obviously, President Trump thought it was a big deal. He clearly did not like the fact that 5 Republican senators voted with Democrats against the wishes of the White House. In theory, what this resolution would do is it would bar the administration from moving forward with any more military action if Congress does not approve of it first in Venezuela. It would also pull back all of the existing military infrastructure and personnel that we have right now just off the coast of Venezuela, again, unless Congress expressly approves keeping it there. So again, it is a strong rebuke. We saw President Trump's reaction. Here's another one I want to play for you, and that's Senator Rand Paul. He's one of the 5 whom you just showed there, Republicans that voted with Democrats. When we asked him about this, he said the reason he thinks so many Republicans voted for this resolution is that it's no longer hypothetical. This is a kinetic military action. He said we've actually seen a major operation. So now that that is the case, he feels like more Republicans and all of the Democrats in the Senate want to sort of reassert Congress's authority over approving military use before the president unilaterally approves it without Congress. This is what else Senator Paul told us.
If it brings in revenue from Venezuelan oil, and it looks as if we're taking the Venezuelan oil, I think we will erode the goodwill we have in Venezuela right now. You know, the large number of people, at least half the country or more, has been unhappy with Maduro, with the socialist regime. But if we now say that oil us, you stole things from us, it's ours, and we are going to take revenue to pay for our military embargo or our military blockade, I think that the goodwill that we have with the Venezuelan people will evaporate.
So in other words, he doesn't think the White House's strategy of sort of taking and then selling Venezuelan oil is legitimate long-term. He thinks there are problems and not realistically something the U.S. could sustain for several years. Take a listen to another Republican. This is actually the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Jim Risch. We talked to him a little while ago. He was one of the many Republicans who voted against it and with the wishes of the White House. This is what he told us about how he does not really believe this is going to be a prolonged military intervention.
If what happens that you described, and that is that the Venezuelan people hold an election and they get a fairly elected regime, administration in Venezuela, we're out of there. We do not want to run Venezuela. We have no interest in doing this.
Nicole, Senator Kaine, who first proposed this War Powers resolution, says today that this may very well not be the last one. If there's action against Colombia or Cuba or other nations, he says expect to see more with the same language, effectively, just with different countries substituted in, to continue to send the same message to the White House.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.